Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about some comments that Brian Michael Bendis made recently regarding his upcoming Superman run. I've touched on this a number of times before, and I'll link to those videos in the top right hand corner. But first I'd like to give a shout out to the Fan Man, as he's known on YouTube. This is Chris Moe from the podcast, The Geek Show with Chris Moe. His recent video is where I discovered this article and heard about these comments and was able to look it up for myself. So I definitely would point you to the Fan Man's channel. He's a radio guy and a longtime podcaster, and now he's transitioning over into the YouTube format. So I definitely recommend checking him out. Give him a subscription and like if you are so inclined. He's very funny, very smooth, quite entertaining, and he makes you think. But this article is from Comic Book Resources, unfortunately. This is the only place I've been able to find it. I don't really like patroning comic book resources, but it's entitled, Bendis Predicts Worried Superman Fans Will End Up Apologizing to Him. Where do you even begin? So, I'm going to read his comments here in just a moment, but my basic problem with this attitude that he's been taking with readers ever since he began marketing this run that he was going to come onto for Superman and what he was going to bring about, it's very much still in the vein of how Marvel writers treat their audience and treat their readers. And there's a big difference between that and how DC's popular writers and artists have been treating readers recently, especially after the Rebirth initiative. There's a snub condescension throughout a lot of Marvel's writers when they're talking to their fans. We know what's best for these characters. We're doing what we want to. You get on board or get out. That kind of idea. And that's a ridiculous attitude to take when you're writing a mythology. These aren't your intellectual property in terms of the characters or anything. Legally, they're the publisher's intellectual property, but they're really not even that. They're the people's. They're the culture's. And you, as a writer or an artist or an editor or whatever, you have a deep responsibility, and you should feel humbled by that and be gracious in your interactions with even those who disagree with what you're doing. I've told this story before in a video or two. It's been a while now, though. It's from Denny O'Neil. He was, of course, the great editor and writer for Batman for so long and other characters at DC. And he tells a story about the time that they were going to kill off Jason Todd's Robin. He was editing Batman at the time, and he was out for lunch one day. He said he went to a little deli, and he wears a little Batman lapel pin on his jacket because he's a Batman editor. And somebody in the deli asked him, what's the Batman pin for or whatever? And he said, I edit Batman comics. And the guy who owns the deli looked over at somebody else in the store and said, hey, so-and-so, this is the schmuck who wants to kill Robin. Because it was all over the news that Robin was going to die. Of course, they had the big vote to allow readers to vote on whether or not Jason Todd lives or dies. And it was all over the news. Robin is dying. Most people who don't read comics didn't know any sort of distinction between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd or different Robins or whatever. They just know Robin, the character they know and love, and that he was being killed off. And Denny O'Neil says in that moment, he said he realized he's not just an editor for a comic book. He is the guardian of American folklore. And that is the precious golden attitude that everybody who works at DC or Marvel should have at all times. It is an honor to work with these characters, and you work for us. That doesn't mean everybody's going to like everything you do or every choice you make, but look at how DC's writers have been dealing with the public recently. I don't like everything Tom King has done with his Batman run. I certainly don't like every story I've read of Scott Snyder's, but I respect them both deeply in how they've dealt with their readers on Twitter. Even people who criticize them, they take it into consideration. They don't insult them. They don't automatically change just with every blowing wind, but they don't belittle. They don't condescend. They seem to recognize the importance of their position and how much they really answer to culture and to people, and they seem to take it very seriously. So I deeply respect that. That's something we don't really see at Marvel, and Bendis is coming over into DC's lineup now. I hope that means that he's going to jump on board eventually. I'm a little worried that Dan Didio's name is being thrown around a lot more now. We really haven't seen his influence on DC Comics since the New 52. He sort of took a back seat after the Rebirth, and the New 52 failed. So I'm a little concerned that he's more prominent now, and now that we've got Bendis, and now we have all these changes teased and everything. Let me get to the comments here that he made, and I'll speak more specifically. With the backlash that's been happening against all of these reveals for the Bendis Superman run. Bendis says, "What I'm looking forward to is all good fans of Superman being good people, should be top to bottom, I don't know why they haven't edited their article, that I will accept graciously all of the apologies I'm getting in a few months." He jokingly added, "People will see how much I love Lois and John. It's okay, I get it. It's a part of the game. By the way, we are messing with you as well. Something's happened to John and Lois, that's not baloney. There's something going on, but the worry that people have that we don't love these characters or what we're going to do with them, that I can only prove with time, and I will prove it." Okay, so the problem is, Bendis, you talk out of both sides of your mouth with this marketing campaign. He's addressing the reaction that fans have had against him teasing that he might break up the marriage, against him teasing that something might happen to John, or all this kinds of stuff might happen. That's not cool. And then he says later in the article that there are a lot of secrets in our story. Some people get excited, some people get nervous. That is kind of our job, to get people excited and nervous. That's not your job. That's not your job at all. Your job is to write great stories with these characters that mean so much to culture and to fans individually, and to, of course, market those stories. But you don't tease us. You don't tell us, "I don't know if the marriage is going to last." That's underhanded. That is a very lowbrow type of marketing. You can excite us. You can tease us in a positive way. But trying to tease that something people love is going to be dissolved, that's like a commercial for a soap opera. That's not what you should be doing with a character like Superman. So when he says he's going to look forward to fans apologizing to him, even if he keeps his politics out of it and just writes a great Superman story, even people who have made huge ranting, emotionally charged videos, calling him names or whatever, I still don't believe they would owe him an apology, because he's earned that reaction in the way that he's teased this and in the way that he's marketed it. He's tried to frighten people. As he says right here, he's tried to make them nervous. That's not honest marketing. That's not the way to earn goodwill. You know that going in. No one's going to owe you an apology no matter what at this point. Now, while I appreciate the fact that these comments seem to insinuate that the Superman Lois Lane marriage will not be broken up and that John Kent is still going to be around and everything, but again, I can't really trust anything you say at this point, Bendis, because you've said different things at different times. And why would you just assume that you're deserving of goodwill? You have to earn trust and goodwill. And let's just look at some of the things we've seen from you thus far. First of all, we've had those comments that were inflammatory. Then you take Action Comics 1000, this wonderful celebration we had of our hero. Wonderful stories, wonderful art, and you tack on your little story at the end in which Superman just has his ass handed to him over and over. That's it. That's all that happens in that story. And that's a part of Action Comics 1000 now forever. That's not going to earn you any goodwill or trust that you are going to be faithful and loyal to our Superman. The next story we received from you was in DC Nation, and there was no arc to that story at all. I wouldn't even call it a story. It was just a few pages, a glimpse into Superman's life at the Daily Planet, in which you make it very clear that Lois Lane is no longer there, and in which you tease something has happened between Clark and Lois. You don't know what. We don't know the severity of it. It might be nothing. It could be something crazy. We don't know. All we know is that you just took that opportunity to tease us with that, and that's all we've received from you thus far. We have no idea what to expect, and the fans are right to be concerned, and they're right to be nervous because you've made us so on purpose with your own words, as you admit. So I'm really concerned about this attitude that he seems to be taking. Now, he's not as bad as we've seen them come from Marvel. He's not Tom Brevoort saying that, well, you need to take your medicine even if you don't like taking it. You take whatever stories we dish out and changes and so forth. He hasn't said that, at least to my knowledge. But I just want to end with this point here, in that my channel deals with story and mythology and the effects of it and so forth. And even though story ends with the people hearing the story or reading the story, even though it's theirs at that point, it's no longer the storyteller's, it begins with the storyteller. And certain associations that people make with the storyteller make their way into their perceptions of the story. And that's true for people gathering around a storyteller reciting a story orally back in the day, or it's true reading a comic book or watching a movie or reading a book now. You associate certain things with these writers, and as much as one tries to separate the art from the artist, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to do so with social media and with how vocal these writers are now in their marketing campaigns. And this is not the way to do it. when I pick up my Man of Steel issue #1, I'm going to have a bad taste in my mouth from the start. And you got even more work now to do to bring me over to your side. That's not how to tell a good story, a good mythological story. That's how to tell a soap opera. That's how to tell lowbrow, suck 'em in for the cliffhanger drama. And that's not what a Superman story should be. So those are my thoughts on the latest of Bendis's disastrous reveals and such. I am still holding out hope that the story will be something good and something special and something nothing like the marketing has hinted that it would be, but nothing in Bendis's track record as of late tells me that's going to be the case. He hasn't written anything wonderful at Marvel as of late, and anything that hasn't been politically charged and so forth. And now that I'm seeing him address fans in much the same way he did so at Marvel, it makes me concerned that DC's editorial oversight isn't going to be enough to rein him in. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not naysaying the entire run, but we have every right to be extremely nervous and to be extremely concerned with how you conducted yourself and your comments about the character that we know and love. So if anyone owes an apology, Mr. Bendis, it's you. No matter what you have up your sleeve, you have been a poor ambassador for Superman in his coming stories. So that's all for now. Definitely check out the Fan Man. Links in the description and in the top right hand corner. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the new fans. Please continue to share the videos with those you think might find them interesting. We're growing and that's exciting to see, so I will be doing some more giveaways and looking for some more audience input on certain videos and schedules and whatnot. But until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.